3 months after their wedding, her billionaire husband ignored her, until one night, her selfie made him leave everything and run to her. 3 months into her marriage, she felt a loneliness that weighed more heavily than the skyline before her. The man she had vowed to share her life with, Jace Holiday, was elsewhere, consumed by work and commitments that seemed to pull him further from her with each passing day. My beautiful family, welcome back to Mr. Williams' Storytime. May the Almighty cover you with endless mercy, bless your homes with peace, and crown your hearts with strength that never fades. May He grant every woman dignity that cannot be shaken, every man wisdom that inspires, and every child joy that lights the world. May sorrow never hold you, and may your days shine brighter than the stars. I pray for your health, your success, and your family's happiness, that your steps lead only to blessings, and your nights bring you calm. She hugged herself lightly, her fingers brushing against the delicate bracelet Jace had given her on their wedding day. It was meant to be a symbol of connection, a reminder that no matter where they were tethered together. Yet tonight, it felt more like a small echo of something she was slowly losing. Her phone rested on the marble railing beside her. For the first time in days, she swiped it open, scrolling through messages left unanswered and missed calls blinking silently on the screen. The quiet of the penthouse seemed louder than any noise outside. She felt a hollow ache in her chest, a yearning not just for his presence but for recognition, for the subtle warmth of attention that had once made her feel alive. Almost absent-mindedly, she lifted the phone, holding it at arm's length. Her thumb hovered over the camera app, and she felt a mix of hope and uncertainty. Maybe this small gesture, this fleeting moment captured in a single image, could reach him in a way words no longer could. She pressed the button, freezing a smile on her face that was equal parts courage and vulnerability. 3 months into a seemingly perfect marriage, Amaya felt invisible to the man she loved most. Each day had become a quiet struggle against an emptiness she hadn't expected to feel. Her husband, Jace Holiday, a self-made billionaire with a mind for deals, innovations, and global ventures, was present in the world, but absent in her life. Calls went unanswered, texts unread, and evenings once filled with laughter now vanished into silence. It wasn't the kind of neglect anyone could have predicted. No arguments, no fights, just the slow erosion of presence, a quiet drift that made her question everything. The life she had dreamed of, the love she had envisioned, seemed to be slipping through her fingers. And yet, she stayed. She stayed because she believed in what they had, because she remembered the moments that had drawn them together, and because deep down, she refused to let go without a fight. It was in this fragile state, balancing hope and heartache, that she lifted her phone. One selfie, one captured smile that was honest, unfiltered, and meant to speak louder than the silence between them. In that image, she wasn't just showing herself. She was sending a message she could no longer say aloud. I'm still here. I haven't given up. Have you ever loved someone so deeply, only to feel like a stranger in their life? Felt the ache of longing when the person who once made your heart soar now seems just out of reach? Amaya had, and in that moment on the balcony, she knew she was not alone in her experience, because love, even when real, could sometimes feel unbearably distant. She wondered if others had endured the same quiet desperation, the nights spent staring at a phone, hoping for a message, replaying memories, and questioning whether their love was enough. The frustration of wanting connection, yet being met with absence, was universal, yet intensely personal. It made her doubt herself, her worth, and even the very foundation of the life she had dreamed about. And yet, she also remembered that love could be resilient, that sometimes a small gesture, a word, a glance, a smile, could bridge the distance between hearts. That thought became the spark that guided her as she prepared to send her message, knowing it could change everything. Jace Holiday wasn't a careless man. He was meticulous, driven, and endlessly focused on the empire he had built from nothing. Yet, in his pursuit of success, he had become a ghost in the life he had vowed to share. Amaya felt the weight of every unanswered message, every missed call, every quiet dinner where his chair remained empty or his attention elsewhere. The tension wasn't loud. It didn't scream. It crept in quietly, like shadows stretching across the corners of a sunlit room. Every tick of the clock reminded her that the man she loved was physically present one moment and emotionally distant the next. Her heart ached not just for his company, but for acknowledgement, for the subtle affirmations that love still existed between them. And yet, she refused to let despair dominate her. The tension of their growing distance became fuel, an unspoken challenge to reach him, to remind him that love required presence, attention, and care. Every glance at her phone, every small gesture she planned, carried with it the hope that he would notice, that he would come back, not just to her, but to the connection they once shared. What would it take to break through the walls Jace had unknowingly built around himself? Could a single moment, a simple gesture, remind him of the life and love waiting for him at home? Amaya didn't know, and that uncertainty both terrified and strengthened her. She lifted her phone again, the screen reflecting her quiet determination. One authentic smile, captured in a fleeting second, might be the key to reaching him, might be the spark that reignited a connection that had begun to fade. Would he notice it? Would he act before the distance between them became permanent? These questions hung in the air, unanswered, intensifying the suspense. Viewers could feel the unspoken stakes, the fragile balance between patience and desperation, between hope and heartbreak. It was a delicate moment poised on the edge of change, and the answer, when it came, would be worth every second of anticipation. Before we continue with Amaya and Jace's story, take a moment to subscribe to Mr. Williams Storytime. These love stories aren't just tales. They are experiences that touch the heart and remind us what truly matters in life. By subscribing, you won't miss a single journey filled with emotion, drama, and the lessons we all can learn from the power of connection. If you've ever been moved by a story of love, perseverance, or second chances, hitting that subscribe button ensures you're part of a community that celebrates these moments. And don't forget to click the notification bell so every new story arrives straight to you, because some stories are too beautiful to wait. Amaya Sinclair had always believed in love, though she never imagined it would find her in the form of Jace Holiday. He wasn't just handsome or charismatic, though he certainly was both. But there was an intensity in his gaze, a warmth in the way he listened, that made her feel seen in ways she had never experienced before. Their connection had begun months ago, at a charity gala in New York. Amaya remembered the way his hand extended to hers, steady and confident, yet gentle, and how his eyes held a curiosity that made her heart skip a beat. Conversation flowed effortlessly between them, from light-hearted laughter to shared reflections about dreams and life's small wonders. There was a subtle pull, a quiet hum of attraction that neither could ignore, a chemistry that didn't need fireworks to be felt. Even in that brief encounter, she sensed the depth of character beneath his confident exterior, and he, in turn, was captivated not by her appearance alone, but by the spark of authenticity she carried, a spark that promised connection, understanding, and something rare in a world so often distracted by surface appearances. The gala had been glittering, alive with soft music, murmurs of conversation, and glasses catching the warm light. Amaya had felt slightly out of place amidst the grandeur, unsure if she truly belonged. That's when Jace appeared, offering a smile that seemed to cut through the crowd, and a hand that invited her into a moment of ease she hadn't anticipated. "I don't usually attend these events," she had admitted with a shy laugh, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in his attention. "And yet, here you are," he had replied smoothly, his gaze steady, the most captivating woman in the room. There was a sincerity in his tone, a hint of genuine admiration that made her pulse quicken. They had wandered through conversations about dreams, books, and the little things that shaped who they were. Nothing about that night had felt rushed. It was the kind of connection that lingered, subtle but undeniable, planting the first seeds of a story neither of them would ever forget. Even now, months later, the memory returned with sharp clarity, reminding Amaya of how effortless it had felt to be seen, truly seen by another soul. That memory was a thread she clung to in the quiet evenings when silence threatened to overwhelm her. As Amaya lowered her phone, the faint smile still lingering on her lips carried more than just hope. It carried determination. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, that the next days might be filled with unanswered messages and silent dinners, but she refused to let the distance define their marriage. This single, genuine selfie was her quiet rebellion against the growing emptiness. Somewhere, Jace was unaware of the impact one small moment could have, the way a simple expression of love and presence could pierce through the walls he had unknowingly built. But change was coming. The story that had begun with laughter, whispered conversations, and glittering lights was about to take a turn, and nothing would ever be the same. And so, with the city lights stretching endlessly below, Amaya turned away from the balcony, ready to navigate the delicate dance of love, patience, and hope. The stage was set, the players were in motion, and the tale of their struggle, realization, and ultimate reunion was about to unfold. Amaya Sinclair had always carried a quiet belief in love. Not the fleeting, storybook kind that ended with a line in a magazine, but something deeper, something that could withstand life's chaos, yet bring warmth to the simplest moments. She imagined laughter echoing in shared apartments, whispered dreams in the middle of the night, and the small gestures that made ordinary days extraordinary. Her expectations of love had been modest, built on stories she had read and moments she had observed, yet she never expected it would arrive at a glittering charity gala in New York. The city's skyline shimmered through the glass walls of the grand hall, chandeliers reflecting soft light onto the polished marble floors. Amaya moved quietly among the crowd, a hint of nervousness in her step. She had always admired elegance from afar, but tonight she felt a step removed from it, a spectator rather than a participant. Then she saw him, Jace Holliday, calm and confident, yet with eyes that seemed to notice her before anyone else. He approached with a smile that was both smooth and genuine, a subtle warmth that made the bustling room fade around them. Their conversation began effortlessly, flowing from casual introductions to shared reflections about life's complexities and joys. In that instant, Amaya felt the unmistakable stirrings of connection, the quiet hum of a bond she could not yet name but immediately recognized. In the days that followed, their connection deepened through moments that felt ordinary yet unforgettable. Jace noticed the little things about Amaya that others might have overlooked, the way she crinkled her nose when laughing, the soft sigh she let out when lost in thought, the way her eyes lit up at small acts of kindness. He would leave her favorite coffee waiting on her desk, a simple gesture that carried a quiet message. I see you. I care. Amaya, in turn, noticed the way he remembered her preferences, the way he paused mid-conversation to ask about her day, the thoughtful way he brought flowers not on special occasions, but on regular Tuesdays. Each small act became a language of intimacy, spoken without words yet understood profoundly by the other. Their conversations stretched late into the night, exploring dreams, fears, and small anecdotes that revealed who they truly were. Even mundane discussions about work or books became opportunities to connect, to build trust, and to strengthen the invisible thread binding their hearts together. The romance was subtle, almost delicate, yet it carried a depth that promised a future built not just on attraction, but on understanding and appreciation. The weeks and months following their first meeting seemed to pass in a blur, yet each moment was etched into Amaya's memory with remarkable clarity. Every coffee shared in quiet cafes, every sunset walked along the river, and every laughter-filled conversation brought them closer. Their connection, once subtle, became undeniable, a force that neither could ignore. Jace's presence was a mixture of intensity and warmth, his ambition balanced by moments of tenderness that left Amaya both exhilarated and comforted. Together, they explored the city, attended small art exhibits, and lost themselves in conversations that lasted until the early hours of the morning. The world outside seemed to fade whenever they were together, leaving only the magnetic pull of two hearts discovering their rhythm in perfect sync. It wasn't long before the notion of marriage became more than a dream. It became inevitable. They chose the cliffs of Santorini for their wedding, where the whitewashed buildings contrasted brilliantly with the azure sea. Standing there, hand in hand, with the wind brushing gently across their faces, they exchanged vows filled with sincerity, laughter, and promises that extended beyond what words could capture. The world watched a picture of perfection, but in their eyes, it was far more. It was the culmination of a connection built on patience, understanding, and undeniable chemistry. If you're enjoying this love story, take a moment to hit the like button. It really helps us share more heartfelt stories like Amaya and Jace's, moments that remind us all of the beauty in connection, patience, and understanding. By engaging, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a journey where love, perseverance, and small, meaningful gestures are celebrated. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Mr. Williams' Storytime so every story that touches the heart arrives directly to you. These stories are designed to capture the highs and lows of real emotions, the quiet victories, and the moments that make life unforgettable. Your support ensures that more people can experience stories that inspire, comfort, and bring a sense of shared humanity. The early days of their relationship were a tapestry of emotions, each one more vibrant than the last. Every glance shared between Amaya and Jace carried a warmth that made the world around them feel softer, almost suspended in time. Even in moments of silence, their presence spoke volumes, weaving a sense of security and exhilaration into every heartbeat. Anticipation lingered in the air like a gentle hum. Each meeting, each message, each small act of kindness became a celebration of connection. Amaya felt a lightness in her chest, a hope that this was the kind of love that endured not because it was effortless, but because it was chosen, nurtured, and cherished. Jace, in turn, found himself captivated by her authenticity. The way she laughed freely, shared her thoughts openly, and met his intensity with patience and understanding. Their love was not hurried. It was deliberate, yet it carried the thrilling rush of discovery. It was in stolen smiles across crowded rooms, in quiet conversations under starlit skies, and in the mutual recognition that they had found something rare. Every day brought a renewed sense of excitement, a belief that the path they were walking together was one paved with possibility and promise. As the weeks passed, Amaya and Jace basked in the glow of their deepening bond, unaware of the subtle shifts that time would soon introduce. Their days were filled with shared laughter, quiet understanding, and moments that reaffirmed the promise of their love. Yet beneath the joy, there was a delicate balance to maintain, a reminder that even the most perfect beginnings could be challenged by life's demands. Amaya often reflected on the magic of those early months, holding on to the memories of whispered conversations, unexpected gestures, and the exhilaration of a love that seemed to bloom in perfect harmony. She felt fortunate to have found someone who could see her fully, appreciate her essence, and reciprocate her affection with a kind of devotion that transcended words. And yet, as she prepared to face the world outside their intimate moments, there lingered a quiet question, a hint of what was to come. Could the intensity of Jace's ambitions and the relentless pace of his life coexist with the delicate, nurturing love they had created? That question hung in the air like an unspoken prelude, where the couple's devotion would be tested and the true measure of their connection would emerge. The first signs of change were subtle, almost imperceptible, yet they weighed heavily on Amaya. In the early days after their Santorini wedding, mornings were filled with shared coffee and soft laughter, evenings with lingering glances and quiet conversations. But gradually, the rhythm shifted. Jace's schedule became dominated by back-to-back meetings, calls that stretched late into the night, and a relentless tide of responsibilities that left little room for their connection. Amaya noticed the gradual disappearance of shared moments. Dinners were often solitary, chairs left empty, laughter replaced by the hum of the city outside. The distance wasn't marked by conflict or anger. It was quieter, a fading presence that chipped away at the closeness they had cultivated. Each day she felt herself reaching for him, only to find the space between them growing wider. She tried to remind herself that he was simply busy, that his drive and ambition were part of who he was, yet no amount of rational thought could entirely mask the ache of absence that settled like a weight over her heart. The honeymoon period, once vibrant and filled with promise, had begun to wane, leaving behind an emotional void that she hadn't anticipated. Night after night, Amaya lay awake, staring at the ceiling of their penthouse as if the patterns in the plaster could offer answers she couldn't find elsewhere. She replayed the early days of their love in her mind, the way Jace had looked at her with quiet admiration, the warmth in his voice, the effortless way he had made her feel seen. Those memories were now bittersweet reminders of a connection that seemed to be slipping away. Doubt crept in silently. Had she imagined the depth of their bond? Was she expecting too much? Each unanswered call and unread message whispered questions she struggled to answer. Loneliness settled in her chest, heavy and persistent, mingling with a longing so sharp it seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. She missed not only his presence, but the small, intimate gestures that had once made her feel cherished. The soft touch on her hand, the way he had laughed at her jokes, the warmth of shared silences. Yet, within the ache, a quiet resilience remained. She refused to let the absence dictate her emotions completely. She reminded herself that love wasn't always easy, that patience and understanding were as much a part of devotion as shared laughter. But even as she tried to steady her thoughts, the void of his absence weighed heavily, making each night feel longer than the one before. The penthouse, once alive with their shared energy, now felt cavernous and silent. Polished floors reflected the dim glow of the city lights, but the warmth that had once lingered in the corners had faded. Chairs remained unused, dinner settings untouched, and the quiet hum of appliances filled the gaps where conversation once lived. Her phone sat on the marble counter, a small digital reminder of the distance between them. Messages left unanswered blinked silently, notifications accumulating without response. Each ignored text was a subtle puncture to her heart, a reminder that Jace's attention had shifted elsewhere. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sparkled as if mocking her solitude. Neon signs and traffic lights cast a muted brilliance against the night sky, while the streets below thrummed with life she could not reach. The contrast was jarring, life bustling beyond her walls while she remained isolated, her longing amplified by the rhythm of the world outside. Even in her solitude, Amaya observed these details with a mixture of melancholy and clarity. The empty penthouse, the glowing skyline, the stillness of unanswered messages. All of it painted a picture of growing distance that she could neither ignore nor easily remedy. Each day, Amaya felt the tension between hope and heartbreak stretching her thin. Longing settled deep in her chest, a persistent ache that refused to be ignored. She missed Jace, not just his presence, but the way he had once made her feel important, seen, and valued. Each unreturned call, each unread message became a quiet frustration that gnawed at her resolve. Sadness came in waves, often unexpected. She would catch herself staring at his chair across the dining table, imagining him sitting there, laughing or sharing a casual remark. But the seat remained empty, the space beside her vacant, and the echoes of past intimacy only amplified the loneliness she felt. The juxtaposition of memory and present reality made every moment without him sharper, more intense. Yet, even in frustration and melancholy, a subtle hope persisted. Amaya reminded herself that love required patience and understanding, that relationships were not immune to challenges, and that sometimes distance was a test of resilience rather than a signal of loss. The complexity of her emotions, longing mingled with sadness, hope entwined with frustration, created a tension that was both heavy and captivating, keeping her heart engaged even as the distance grew. If you've ever felt a growing distance in a relationship, take a moment to comment below and share your experience. Sometimes simply expressing these emotions reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. By engaging with this story, you're helping others see that love is complex and requires attention, patience, and effort. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Mr. Williams Storytime for more stories that explore the highs and lows of love, offering lessons, hope, and inspiration along the way. Sharing your thoughts encourages connection, not only with the story but with others who may be facing similar challenges. Your voice becomes part of the journey, adding depth to every moment and every emotion that unfolds. As the night stretched on and unanswered messages piled up, Amaya could feel the widening gap between herself and Jace. The city's lights continued to twinkle beyond her windows, a constant reminder that life moved forward even when their connection seemed paused. She longed for the warmth and attention that had once defined their early days, and the weight of his absence pressed on her with quiet insistence. Yet within her heart, a flicker of determination remained. She refused to surrender to silence, to let distance define the state of their marriage. Questions lingered in her mind, subtle but persistent. Could she find a way to reach him? Could one small gesture remind him of the love that had brought them together? These thoughts set the stage for action, a delicate yet powerful turning point that would test the strength of their bond and reveal what truly mattered. The quiet tension of their lives was about to give way to efforts, choices, and moments that would determine whether love could endure despite absence. With resolve in her chest and hope clinging to her heart, Amaya prepared to bridge the space between them, ready to fight for the connection that had once felt effortless. Determined not to let distance define their marriage, Amaya took matters into her own hands. She began with small, deliberate gestures meant to rekindle the intimacy they had once shared. One evening, she arranged an intimate dinner on the balcony, soft candlelight flickering against the evening breeze. The table was set with Jace's favorite dishes, each carefully prepared to reflect the attention she had always given to their moments together. She left handwritten notes in places she knew he would see, a reminder of shared memories, little affirmations of love, and quiet messages meant to break through his preoccupation with work. On his desk, beside an untouched coffee mug, one note read simply, "I'm still here, waiting for you." On the kitchen counter, another bore a more playful tone, recalling an inside joke that had once made them both laugh until their sides hurt. Every gesture, no matter how small, was an effort to rebuild the connection, to pierce through the wall of busyness that had grown between them. Amaya's hope rested in these actions, a belief that love, when nurtured, could withstand the pressures of ambition and time. Each note, each meal, each carefully planned moment carried with it the weight of her devotion, and the silent question of whether Jace would recognize and respond to her efforts. Despite her thoughtful efforts, Amaya often met silence in return. The intimate dinners remained largely solitary, the flickering candlelight reflecting off empty chairs and untouched glasses. Handwritten notes went unnoticed on his desk, their messages unanswered, their warmth seemingly absorbed into the walls of the penthouse. Each attempt that failed to elicit a response deepened the ache in her chest, a reminder that love sometimes demanded more than gestures. It required presence. The strain grew heavier with every passing day. Amaya found herself second-guessing her actions. Was she trying too hard? Was she asking for too much? Each unanswered message was a quiet wound, a moment of doubt that echoed louder than any spoken word. Sleep became elusive. The night stretched endlessly as she lay awake imagining every scenario, every reason for his distance. And yet, amidst the sadness, a stubborn hope persisted. She reminded herself that love was not always immediate, that patience could serve as its own expression of devotion. But still, a lingering question haunted her thoughts. Would he even notice? The uncertainty hovered like a shadow over her days, creating a suspense that both motivated her and weighed heavily on her heart. Amaya sat alone one evening, the city skyline spread beneath her like a canvas of possibilities and unanswered questions. She held another note in her hand, written with the same hope she had carried for weeks. Would he even notice? The question lingered in the air, heavy and unrelenting. She paused, watching the lights flicker across the streets below, each passing car a silent reminder of moments slipping by. Her heart raced with anticipation, yet each ring of her phone, or the absence of it, felt like a subtle test. Could one gesture, one simple reminder, be enough to bridge the growing distance? Her thoughts darted from hope to fear in rapid succession. Maybe he's too busy. Maybe I misjudged his feelings. But then, a spark of determination returned. She refused to surrender to uncertainty without trying every possible avenue to reach him. The unanswered messages, the empty dinners, they were obstacles, yes, but they also framed a narrative that demanded resolution. Amaya's inner monologue became a series of suspenseful beats. Will tonight finally bring a response? Will he notice the note I left by his favorite chair? Or will the silence stretch on another night, leaving me to wonder if our love can survive this distance? Each question acted as a cliffhanger, gripping her and the viewers in the tension of what might come next. Even amidst repeated setbacks, Amaya's heart held on to hope. Every attempt to reach Jace, though met with silence at times, was a small assertion of faith in their bond. She reminded herself that love was often tested in ways that were invisible to the outside world, and that perseverance was itself an expression of devotion. Sadness, however, was never far behind. Nights alone felt longer than days, and every unanswered message seemed to echo through the penthouse like a hollow reminder of his absence. She sometimes felt her resolve faltering, wondering if her efforts were too little or too late, if the man she loved would ever notice her silent pleas. Yet determination coursed beneath her melancholy. She refused to let distance define their relationship. With each note left, each dinner prepared, and each small intentional gesture, she reinforced her commitment, not just to the marriage, but to the love they had nurtured from the beginning. The interplay of hope, sadness, and determination created a rhythm that kept her going, a persistent pulse of emotion that demanded resolution and propelled her forward despite uncertainty. As days blended into nights, Amaya's efforts became a quiet rhythm of hope and persistence. Every note left, every intimate dinner arranged, was a small defiance against the growing silence that threatened to overshadow their love. She knew that her gestures alone could not control the outcome, yet she embraced the belief that presence, no matter how subtle, could spark a change. The unanswered messages, the empty chairs, and the quiet of their penthouse were no longer just reminders of absence. They became catalysts, urging her to remain patient, vigilant, and emotionally present. A flicker of anticipation lingered. Perhaps tonight, her next gesture would finally reach him. Would Jace notice the note she had carefully tucked into his briefcase? Would he pause in his relentless routine and recognize the love that had not wavered? This tension set the stage for a turning point, a moment where absence and presence, silence and acknowledgement would collide. Jace Holiday had returned from a grueling week-long business retreat, his mind crowded with contracts, investor meetings, and strategic plans. The city's hum barely registered as he settled into the quiet of his office, exhausted yet restless. Then, almost unnoticed at first, a notification flashed on his phone. A simple selfie from Amaya. It was unassuming, natural, unfiltered. She smiled softly, a warmth in her eyes that seemed to reach across the distance he had let grow. And yet, in that instant, the impact was profound. Jace paused, his heartbeat faltering. This was no ordinary photo. It was a reminder of the love he had taken for granted, a visual echo of the bond he had neglected amid the chaos of success. For a moment, time slowed. He examined the image again, noticing the gentle sincerity, the quiet resilience, and the unspoken plea woven into her gaze. It wasn't just a smile, it was a declaration, a subtle assertion that she had not given up on them. The realization hit him with staggering force. He had allowed ambition to overshadow what truly mattered. As he stared at Amaya's selfie, a wave of regret washed over Jace, sharp and undeniable. He could no longer ignore the truth. In his pursuit of success, he had allowed the most important relationship in his life to fray. Every unanswered call, every missed dinner, every late-night meeting that had pulled him away now seemed painfully consequential. His mind replayed moments he had overlooked, the quiet smiles she had offered, the thoughtful gestures he had failed to notice, the patience she had shown when his absence stretched too long. Each memory pressed against him, a silent indictment of neglect. How had I let this happen? He thought, a hollow ache forming in his chest. Jace felt the weight of his choices, the stark contrast between professional triumph and personal loss. In his empire of success, he realized that without Amaya, even the grandest achievements felt hollow. He had believed that love could endure on faith alone, yet the image of her hopeful smile shattered that illusion, illuminating the depth of what he had been ignoring. The internal conflict surged, a battle between pride, exhaustion, and the undeniable pull of his heart. He knew he had to act, but uncertainty gnawed at him. How long had he neglected the woman who had given him so much, and would it be too late to reclaim what mattered most? Jace didn't pause for long. He grabbed his keys, his mind racing as the weight of his realization pressed him into motion. The streets of New York stretched before him, a labyrinth of lights, motion, and sound, yet every honking car, every flickering neon sign, seemed to blur as his focus sharpened solely on Amaya. The night air pressed against the windows of his sleek car as he sped through avenues alive with the city's pulse. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of passing lights, fast, erratic, charged with anticipation. Street lamps cast brief illuminations across his face, shadows moving in tandem with his inner turmoil. Each intersection became a test of urgency, every red light a moment of suspended anticipation. Will she still be there? Will I be too late? The city itself seemed to reflect his turmoil, skyscrapers towering like silent witnesses, traffic murmuring a constant reminder of the world outside, yet inconsequential compared to the singular goal propelling him forward. In that drive, Jace's mind replayed the memories of their love, the subtle gestures, the smiles, and the warmth that had become the anchor of his life. The suspense was tangible, each moment a heartbeat away from reunion or regret. The penthouse balcony came into view, the familiar lights of the city sprawling beneath them, serene yet alive. Amaya stood there, wrapped in the quiet of the evening, unaware that Jace's footsteps approached with a determination fueled by regret and longing. When she turned, the sight of him froze her momentarily. The man who had been distant for weeks now stood before her, eyes wide with a mixture of remorse and urgency. Silence lingered between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Then, slowly, he stepped closer, each movement deliberate, measured, yet filled with the raw intensity of emotion that had built over days of absence. I was a fool," Jace whispered, voice thick, each word weighted with the sincerity he had long neglected to express. "I let everything else consume me, but I forgot the most important thing, you." Amaya's eyes welled with tears, a mixture of relief, lingering hurt, and recognition of the depth of his awakening. She took a step forward, then another, until she could feel the warmth of his presence, hear the quiet rhythm of his heartbeat that mirrored her own. For a long moment, they simply held each other, allowing tension to release, emotions to settle, and the silence of the city to serve as witness. No grand declarations were necessary. The intimacy of their embrace, the sincerity in his eyes, and the depth of her response conveyed everything words could not. It was a reunion not only of bodies but of hearts, a slow, deliberate reconnection that reaffirmed the resilience of their love. If this moment gave you chills, don't forget to hit like and share. It's a story everyone should see. Moments like these remind us of the power of love, presence, and the courage to acknowledge our mistakes. By engaging, you're helping others experience the highs and lows of real relationships, where patience, vulnerability, and sincerity lead to profound reconnections. Don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Williams' Storytime for more stories that touch the heart, inspire reflection, and celebrate the enduring power of human connection. Sharing your thoughts in the comments also allows viewers to reflect on their own relationships, drawing lessons and inspiration from Jace and Amaya's journey. Your interaction ensures that stories of love, growth, and redemption continue to reach hearts everywhere. The night stretched quietly around them, city lights casting a soft glow across the balcony as Amaya and Jace held each other. Words had been exchanged, but it was the shared presence, the acknowledgement of neglect, and the embrace of understanding that truly mended the rift. Jace's earlier distractions and absences were forgiven in that moment, not because they were forgotten, but because recognition and sincerity now guided their connection. Amaya realized that love did not always need grand gestures. Sometimes it required attention, presence, and genuine acknowledgement. Jace, in turn, understood that success meant little without the person who made life meaningful. Each heartbeat in that quiet embrace reinforced their renewed commitment to one another. The turning point had arrived, but their story was far from over. The lessons of patience, resilience, and deliberate attention to love would guide the days to come. The city hummed below, indifferent yet witness to the triumph of human connection as the couple stepped inside, hand in hand, ready to face a new beginning together. The days that followed their reunion were filled with quiet, deliberate moments of reconnection. Mornings began with shared coffee, the aroma blending seamlessly with the warmth of their renewed closeness. Amaya would prepare pancakes or omelets, while Jace offered playful commentary, their laughter echoing through the apartment, a gentle rhythm that replaced the previous silence. Evenings were no longer empty or solitary. They cooked together, each mishap in the kitchen, spilled sauce, oversalted dishes, becoming an opportunity for shared laughter and lighthearted teasing. Small rituals reemerged, simple yet profound, choosing a new series to watch together, holding hands while walking through the city streets, and lingering over late-night talks that explored dreams, frustrations, and plans for the future. Every day, the repetition of these tiny joys reminded them of the bond that had never truly broken. The intimacy of ordinary life, moments filled with ordinary tasks, became the canvas for rebuilding trust and connection. Laughter, soft touches, and shared glances served as bridges across the chasm that had once threatened to pull them apart, making each day feel alive with possibility. Through these shared moments, Amaya discovered the strength she had cultivated during their time apart. Her patience and persistence had not been passive, they were active expressions of her self-worth. She realized that waiting did not mean diminishing herself, and that her love deserved attention, care, and recognition. Each smile she shared, each thoughtful gesture she made, reflected a woman who valued herself even as she nurtured the relationship. Jace, in turn, began to understand the depth of his own transformation. No longer was he consumed solely by ambition. He had learned the tangible cost of neglecting the person who mattered most. He noticed the subtle ways Amaya communicated love, respect, and patience, and internalized them as lessons for how he wanted to move forward, not just as a husband, but as a partner fully present in both action and emotion. Their growth intertwined. Amaya's confidence empowered him to embrace vulnerability, while his commitment and attentiveness reinforced her belief in their shared bond. Together, they discovered that love was not a static state, but a dynamic process requiring awareness, effort, and mutual respect. Their individual realizations fueled a collective awakening, turning small daily interactions into profound affirmations of their renewed connection. The days unfolded with an ease that contrasted sharply with the tension of their earlier struggles. Every glance shared carried warmth, every touch was a gentle reassurance, and every laugh echoed the restoration of trust and closeness. Amaya and Jace discovered that forgiveness was not a single act but a continuous choice, expressed through patience, understanding, and the willingness to show up consistently for each other. They spoke openly about the past, acknowledging missteps without blame, allowing vulnerability to become the foundation for renewed intimacy. Amaya felt the relief of unburdened emotions, the freedom that came from understanding Jace's intentions and witnessing his sincere efforts to change. In turn, Jace felt the quiet joy of being seen fully, appreciated not for his success, but for the man he was capable of being when present. Love, once strained by absence and neglect, began to pulse anew. Simple acts, hand in hand while cooking, shared smiles across the breakfast table, lingering touches before bed, carried the weight of emotional healing. Each moment was imbued with tenderness, reinforcing the knowledge that love was resilient, that mistakes could be mended, and that a relationship grounded in authenticity and attention could flourish even after turbulence. The penthouse no longer felt like a mere living space. It had transformed into a sanctuary of intimacy and warmth. Soft lamplight bathed the rooms in a golden glow, accentuating the comfort and safety of their shared environment. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint aroma of dinner they had prepared together, creating an atmosphere alive with familiarity and affection. They lingered on the couch during quiet evenings, wrapped in cozy blankets, sharing soft smiles and playful glances that conveyed volumes without words. Gentle touches, a hand brushing hair away, fingers intertwined during a walk across the balcony, a reassuring hand on the small of the back, became the language of their reconnection. Even the simplest gestures, like Amaya placing a mug of tea beside Jace without a word, or him pausing mid-task to meet her gaze, carried significance. The physical environment, combined with these small expressions of care, reinforced the emotional rebuilding of their relationship. Every detail, from the warm lighting to shared laughter and subtle touches, served as a visual testament to love restored, grounding their emotional journey in tangible, relatable moments. As days turned into weeks, the rhythm of Amaya and Jace's life settled into a comforting pattern. The combination of shared laughter, gentle touches, and deliberate attention to each other transformed their relationship into one of trust, understanding, and mutual respect. The penthouse, once a symbol of isolation, now reflected the warmth of their renewed connection, every corner echoing their laughter and small acts of care. Amaya's patience and resilience had not only strengthened her sense of self-worth, but had also reminded Jace of the importance of presence and attentiveness in love. They had rediscovered the joy in ordinary moments, morning coffees, late-night conversations, and quiet evenings on the balcony, learning that love's most profound expressions often lived in simplicity. Yet, even amidst this restored intimacy, life hinted at new possibilities and challenges ahead. Amaya and Jace's story illustrates a fundamental truth. Love is not automatic. It must be nurtured daily, in both grand gestures and small, consistent acts. Their reunion was not a product of luck or timing alone. It was the culmination of deliberate effort, patience, and attention to each other's needs. Consider the way Amaya prepared dinners, left heartfelt notes, or simply smiled in hope. These small actions reminded Jace of the importance of presence. Likewise, his acknowledgement, his willingness to step away from work, and his vulnerability in expressing regret were equally essential. Love, in its most enduring form, requires both giving and receiving with intention. Have you ever paused to reflect on the little ways you show your love each day? Are the small gestures, the words, the attentiveness, the care, being noticed and reciprocated? The story of Amaya and Jace encourages us to recognize that nurturing love is a continual process, one that grows stronger with conscious effort and genuine presence. Amaya and Jace's experience also teaches the power of vulnerability. Jace's initial distance was not born of malice, but of preoccupation, yet it created a gap that only honesty and openness could bridge. When he acknowledged his neglect and expressed his emotions sincerely, it became a turning point, not just in their relationship, but in how he approached love itself. Similarly, Amaya's courage to remain authentic and patient demonstrated that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. By showing her true feelings, she allowed Jace to see the depth of her heart, creating a space for reconnection that was grounded in trust and understanding. Balance is equally essential. Success, ambition, and responsibility are important, but without conscious effort to maintain relationships, achievements lose meaning. Have you ever realized that the most important things in life, love, connection, presence, often exist right in front of you, waiting to be acknowledged? Their story reminds us that maintaining equilibrium between personal goals and relationships ensures fulfillment in both spheres. Through vulnerability and balance, Amaya and Jace modeled how relationships thrive not merely on affection, but on honesty, attentiveness, and shared responsibility, teaching us to embrace openness while honoring the bonds that matter most. One of the clearest lessons from Amaya and Jace's journey is that love requires patience and daily commitment. Their reconciliation was not instantaneous. It was the result of persistent effort, small gestures, and the willingness to show up consistently for one another. Patience allowed Amaya to navigate uncertainty without giving up, and it gave Jace the space to recognize his mistakes and act meaningfully. Every meal prepared together, every late-night conversation, and every shared laugh became a testament to the power of consistent, thoughtful engagement. Love does not thrive on grandiose moments alone. It grows in the quiet rituals that affirm care and presence each day. Have you ever reflected on how your daily actions contribute to the health of your relationships? Even the smallest acts, listening attentively, expressing appreciation, being present without distraction, accumulate into a foundation of trust and connection. Their story shows that the real work of love happens in these consistent, intentional efforts, teaching us that commitment is an ongoing choice rather than a single declaration. By embracing patience and daily attention, Amaya and Jace transformed not just their relationship, but their understanding of love itself, illustrating that devotion is lived through actions as much as feelings. Amaya and Jace's story ultimately teaches us that love is worth fighting for, even when tested by absence, neglect, or misunderstanding. Their journey reminds us that presence, attention, and genuine care are the pillars of lasting relationships. By embracing vulnerability, balance, patience, and daily commitment, they rebuilt not only their bond, but also a deeper appreciation for each other's hearts. Have you ever paused to consider the relationships in your own life and the small ways you nurture them? Are you showing attention, patience, and care consistently, or waiting for grand gestures to define your love? Stories like this encourage reflection, inspiring us to act intentionally and cherish those who matter most. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that love is worth fighting for. Encourage others to embrace patience, vulnerability, and presence in their own relationships. Let Amaya and Jace's journey serve as both inspiration and guidance, showing that even after challenges, love can be renewed, strengthened, and made resilient through effort, understanding, and shared devotion.